Hello my friends, I hope that you're all doing very well. So in today's video, I wanted to share with you guys 20 words that you need to understand if you want to follow fast-speaking Americans. And I know that this is a point of difficulty for many of my clients, so I'm guessing that this may be difficult for some of you guys as well. So several months ago now, I made a different video about how to understand fast English. And in that video, I explained exactly what you can do in 48 days to improve your auditory perceptual skills. And if you guys haven't seen that video yet, I do encourage you to watch that after this one because it's really, really powerful stuff. But today's video is totally different. So in today's video, I'm going to be telling you guys how native speakers pronounce certain words when they're not being produced in their full form. So as you know, in American English, there's a stress timing that comes out when we speak. So certain words are produced in their full form and other words are produced in their reduced form. And if you're not expecting certain words to be produced in their reduced form, even if your auditory perceptual skills are really, really strong, you may be left wondering what the word was that a native speaker said. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna read the word in isolation first. And there may not just be one right answer when I do this. So then I'm gonna give you guys a little bit more context and I want you to figure out what word am I saying. So number one is er. So without a context, that's very bizarre, I'm sure. So let's add a little bit more context. What word am I saying if I said with her? With her. Or even more context, I went with her. I went with her. So what word am I saying? So in this example, I was saying her without the H though, right? So you'll find that many native speakers do this. When they're speaking naturally and freely, they're going to reduce her by totally eliminating the H. So instead of her, you're going to hear but it's going to not be so obvious because it's going to be shorter. So I went with her. I went with her. So you can hear there's an there that's very, very short. So our second example is for. So to add a bit more context, we could say for us. For us. So to add even more context, we could say this is for us. This is for us. So do you know which word I'm saying here? So in this case, I'm saying the word for. So native speakers typically don't say the word for unless they're producing that word in its full form, but in its reduced form, we don't say for, we say for. This is for us. This is for us. Number three is up. Up. And I'll say really quickly that it's not like this is a piece of paper, it's a different up. For example, if I gave you more context, I could say cuppa. Cuppa. If I gave you even more context, I could say a cup of coffee. A cup of coffee. So now I'm sure you could figure it out based on the context, but in this example, I was saying the word of in its reduced form. So very often, instead of, you're going to hear native speakers saying a really quick up instead of. A cup of coffee. Number four, we're already going to start with a little bit more context because otherwise it's just weird to produce. So it would be, I don't know. I don't know. So I don't know. So I, alveolar flap, no, I don't know. Or with a bit more context, I could say, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. So in this example, I'm actually saying don't know. Don't know. So this is a really common reduction. I'm sure many of you guys have heard, but I didn't feel I could omit it because it's so, so common. So instead of I don't know, you'll very often hear I don't know. I don't know. Our next example is of. So to give you a bit more context, I could say would've. Would've. To give you even more context, I could say I would have gone, but it was raining out. I would have gone, but it was raining out. So I'm saying would have. So instead of have, you're often going to hear native speakers reduce have to a simple of, would've, would've. So our next example is coulda, coulda. So to give you some more context, I could say, I could have done that, but I didn't feel like it. I could have done that, but I didn't feel like it. So coulda is could have, could have. So in this case, I'm not even putting the V onto have, like in the previous one, would've, would've. I'm just saying coulda, coulda. I could have done that, but I chose not to because I didn't feel like it. Number 7, jup, jup. I know there's no context there. To add a bit more context, whatja, whatja. It sounds so funny to say it in isolation. Whatja. To give you a bit more context, I would say, what'd you think? What'd you think? So this one, really, really common, and it sounds ridiculous in isolation, but this is the reduced form of what did you? So instead of saying, what did you think? A ton of native speakers are going to say, what'd you think? What'd you think? Number 8, E. E. What word am I saying? I'll give you a bit more context to be fair. Couldy. Couldy. It again sounds very funny in isolation. To give you more context, I could say, could he call her back? Could he call her back? Have you figured it out yet? So in this case, I'm saying, could he? Could he? But similar to her and him, instead of he, you're allowed to drop that H if you're linking and just say the vowel, the E sound. Could he call her? Could he? Could he? Could he call her? Number 9 is So to give you a bit more context, with with them. To give you even more context, I could say, he went with them. Yeah, he went with them. So in this case, I'm saying the word them. So instead of saying that TH, you can totally get rid of it and just say, he went with them. He went with them. So number 10, So to give you some more context, with them. With them. No, my friends, you are not having a deja vu. This is a different example, even though it sounds exactly like the previous example. So that's a really good thing to keep in mind. So with even more context, I could say, she went with them. She went with them. So it sounds exactly like we just saw. But in this case, I may be saying him, him. She went with him. She went with them. She went with them. Of course, if you're thinking, well, how will I know if it's them or him? You're going to know based on the context because both them and him are referring to someone else. So don't worry at all about that, but just know that both of those may be produced as Number 11, we have With a bit more context, we have for, as in, I'll see you at 4. I'll see you at 4. So I think in a sentence, it's pretty easy to figure out. So in this case, I was saying the word at. But in its reduced form, we don't need to say at. You'll very often hear at. I'll see you at 4. So number 12 is have to. As in, I have to tell you about the movie I saw last weekend. I have to tell you about this. So I'm actually saying have to. Have to very frequently becomes have to. I have to tell you about this. Next up, we have the word as. In a bit more context, I could say as good as. Or I could say, I fixed this up and now it's as good as new. So I'm sure now you can figure out that I'm actually saying the word as. So this is another really common reduction. You don't have to say as good as. You can say as good as new. Number 14 is I know we've seen this, but it's different. So in context, I could say I'm up. With even more context, I can say I'm up for the day. I can turn off my alarm. I'm up for the day. So in this case, I'm saying I am, I'm up, I'm up. So I'm reducing I'm and I'm saying I'm up, I'm up. This is a really common reduction that native speakers often use. Number 15 is as in I'm up, I'm up. Again, you're not going crazy. It is the same as the previous example, but it can mean something entirely different. So I could say, I carried him up the stairs. I carried him up the stairs. So that could be him or it could be them. But what I think is really interesting that just in isolation like that could also be I'm, like we saw in the previous case. I think the take-home lesson here is that context is very, very important and that pronunciation in isolation is not, in fact, very helpful in English. Number 16 is ol. Ol. With a bit more context, Erinal. Erinal. Sounds like a very strange word. With more context, we'd say, Erin'll call you later. Erin'll call you later. So in this case, the ul, the really, really short ul, is in fact the word will. Will. So the W totally disappears. The I becomes more of a schwa, blending with that dark L, ul. Erin'll. Erin'll call you later. Number 17 is kun. Kun. With a bit more context, you could say, can you? Or you could say, can you do this for me? Can you do this for me? So in this case, I'm saying can, but this is a really common reduction, you guys, and unless there's a really specific reason to stress the word can, most native speakers are going to produce it in this reduced form, can. Can you do that for me? Yes, I can. Yes, I can. So in that case, it would be appropriate to stress can because it's a winning word. However, in the beginning of the sentence like that, can you do this? It's much more appropriate to produce it in its reduced form. Number 18 is ta. Ta, but even shorter in a real sentence. For example, to call. To call. So in this case, I'd like to call you. I'd like to call you. What I'm saying is to. This is kind of dependent on region. If I had to really, really generalize, I'd say more Canadians than Americans would actually leave this word as to, and more Americans would reduce to schwa. But again, it is more complicated, it is more regional. But many native speakers in general would say, I'd like to try that, to try that. So they're not saying to, they're just saying t with a really short schwa. Number 19, you've probably heard this one before, but I felt bad to exclude it. Wanna. Wanna. I want to try that. I want to try that. So what am I saying here? I'm sure you guys know this one. Want to. Want to is not a natural way to say that. I want to try that. Sounds very cumbersome. It's much more common to say, I wanna. I want to try that. I want to try that. And last but not least, number 20, we have ul. Ul. If you're wondering if this sounds exactly the same as number 16, you would be correct, but it's a different word. Ul. I'll have to think about it. Ul. It's really a schwa followed by a dark L. Ul. I'll have to think about it. So I'm saying I will in a very, very reduced form. So some native speakers may reduce it to I'll have to think about it, but many would reduce it even further if that word wasn't being stressed, and so you'll hear, I'll have to think about it. All right, my friends, well, that is it for today's video. I hope you learned something new. I hope this was fun. If so, hit that like button. Please share with a friend or on your social media. I know I say it all the time, but these things really do help my channel because they tell the YouTube algorithm that people have enjoyed this video. So anyways, you guys take very good care and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.